I'm just so glad that Stephen A. Smith is calling out the Democratic Party, being a person who is on the left. He says he's a centrist and a moderate and all that stuff, but we all know he definitely leans left. You can't help but just follow the culture, right? Anyways, he goes on Megyn Kelly, and he just says what we all know to be true, and thankfully he's saying it because he's someone who's not like super political. Yes, he's had comments on political things happening in the world, like Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan and all them, but they're not inherently like political. That's not their content. He talks about sports, and it's so cool to see him come out and just be honest, even though he's more left-leaning. Hey, the Democratic Party is in shambles, and he's on Megyn Kelly telling us all about it. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to RTM News because it ensures to YouTube that you're enjoying our videos, and in turn, they will continually show up in your feed, and they'll push it out to more people. I'm Titus. Let's get into this video.
To consider, there's a lot of buzz about you because the Democrats desperately need somebody with charisma, personality, strong views, and smarts who maybe isn't a partisan hack. That's all you. To step in and say, I will help you. Are you kicking it around a little?
I'm not considering it. I was recently in the news for agreeing to a new contract extension with ESPN. My life is pretty well. I really don't need politics. I don't need that headache. I'm not thinking about it at all. And I've said that I think it's ridiculous that I am a candidate, but the more I think about it, I understand it. The Democratic Party is an absolute mess, and they are devoid of leadership on a national level. I am a fan of Governor Westmore of Maryland, Josh Shapiro, who I had the pleasure of interviewing on my podcast during Super Bowl week for Pennsylvania. I respect these guys and what have you, but I'm talking about a national voice, meaning somebody in the House or the Senate or somebody in the business community that resonates on the left. No, there's none of that because they've been pulled too far to the left. And it's not popular for me to say because primarily I have voted Democratic throughout my life, as I have never been shy about articulating, particularly for the presidency. But, right is right. And I watched you, Megyn, leading up to the election. And I just had to say, I was finding myself like, damn, she's right. Damn, she's right again. Damn, I'm looking for something to disagree about. And I'm like,
I'm going to get you eventually.
I find it,
You know what's crazy? He said all this. Dang, Megyn Kelly's right. She's right again. She's right again. But he still voted for Kamala. I'm glad that he's calling out the Democratic Party. I really appreciate that. But it's like, this is how brainwashed the black community is. Even when we know what the other side is pushing is wrong, we still vote for them.
She's on them, she's on them, and so I look at things and I'm a moderate, I'm a centrist, and I'm the kind of person.
No, you're not.
Person that, do I believe that if I committed myself to knowing politics the way you and others know it, do I believe I could win a Democratic nomination? Oh, yes. Particularly the state of affairs that exists, I think it would be a cakewalk. I think I'd take them all out. I really, really believe that. I really think I could take them. And maybe in 3 years from now, I'll feel a bit differently. I just can't imagine that's not going to happen. I'm not a politician. I'm not knowledgeable enough about all the intricacies that come along with politics.
Trump wasn't a politician either.
Like yourself. So yeah, I watch people like yourself and others on both sides of the aisle. I read, I pay attention, but I'm no aficionado. But it's just so bad on the left right now. And I tell you, I do believe that I'd be a formidable candidate because I know how to debate. I would look forward to going up against folks on the right and the left. And I would be about common sense. And I would be about, you know what? We're not going to sit up there and look at, I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's Vice President Vance. I don't care if it's Rubio. I don't care if it's Hegseth. I don't care who the hell it is. I don't care if it's Megyn Kelly. If you're right, you're right. What's the crime in saying that's a good point? I got to think about that. You got a good point.
That would be
there.
so disarming.
I would and that you do the same.
Because you're not allowed to disagree with the other side. That's what I hate about politics these days. You don't let people have opposing views. And then when they do have opposing views, but then maybe they have a good point, you're not allowed to point out, oh, well, that actually like that. Because then you're completely just subscribing to everything that they've ever said, which is not how people operate. That's not how life works. We all disagree and agree on many things, but you're not allowed to when it comes to politics. It's like all or nothing. And we need to stop that. So I appreciate him for saying that because we need more of that.
In return, if we're going up against, but I think that they completely surrendered themselves to the extreme or think about MAGA right. The fact of the matter is, whatever they were saying about MAGA right, they were no better on the left. It was embarrassing. It was a disgraceful performance. You were absolutely right when you were pointing out how they hoodwinked the public. We all knew there was slippage. And if you remember, when I called out President Biden at the time, it was a year before the debate. A year. I said, yo, something's missing. He's not there. He's not going to make it to the Democratic National Convention, okay? You got to get another candidate. I was excoriated. I was raked through the coals. Who the hell is he? What does he know? Stick to sports or whatever. But look at you now, because I was right. I was right about that. I was right about Kamala. I was right.
Even before that, though, we were right, because we said in 2020 Biden wasn't there, and people like you guys were just sitting there acting like it didn't exist. You were making us feel like, telling us basically to not believe our own eyes. True no pressure. Homie did not even know how to put string a sentence together, and you guys are, oh no, he's perfect for the job. Get Trump out, and that was a priority. That's all that mattered. And yes, you did call it out, and I appreciate you for doing that. But we had been saying that years prior. And yeah, needed a new candidate because you knew he was going to lose, because there's no way. He's been in the public eye every single day, all the time as the president. And you're like, everyone knew, like, this guy is not there. And the Democratic Party and the mainstream media, who is literally controlled by the Democratic Party, or at least influenced by the Democratic Party, did not allow the truth to be seen. So here we are, which I'm grateful for where we're at now, so I can't complain too much.
About you leaning to the extreme left, woke culture, cancel culture, and all of this stuff in between. You were focusing on transgender. First of all, you didn't even focus on the LGBTQ community. You literally focused on one element of that community with transgender folks, which make up less than 1% of the population. You're talking about the borders, and it's no problem, even though even Obama himself deported more people than Trump did. And so for Biden to go completely against that, for Kamala Harris to sign off on it, there were so many elements and increments where I'm looking at the right and I'm saying I could have some problems with some of the things that they're suggesting. I could look at certain things and say, yo, I'm not vibing with that. That's not what I want for this country. But with what the left did, they were in no moral position to say anything, yet they tried to act like they were. And you know where the proof is about how sad things are, Megyn? The election is over. The man has been in office for months, and they are still acting like they're on the campaign trail, spewing the same old stuff they were doing during the campaign. I think the man won every swing state, elevated his votes in the Black, the Hispanic, and young voters, okay? He's increased in every possible category imaginable. He won the popular vote for the first time for the Republicans since 2004. You would think they would say, man, we got to change up. Instead, they're walking around talking about there's no mandate. There's no mandate at all. I'm like, really?
They're doubling down.
Wait, we have that. They really tried to pull that on you when you went on The View, and you gave them a bit of what you just said, and it was a thing of beauty, because they don't often have somebody come on and say what's real to them. Here it is in SOT 30.
He won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever, and he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of Blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate.
You look so pissed too.
I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no mandate. There's a mandate.
Well, it's a different definition of a mandate, I guess.
Do you think you got through?
I think so. I've known Whoopi for years. You know, I look at The View. They're my colleagues. We all work for the same company. I root for them. I will never root against them. But we're not going to lie to each other. And I'm not going to sit up there and let them lie to themselves, you know, because there's a mandate. Now, understand what I mean by a mandate, Megyn. I'm not saying that means that Trump gets to do whatever he wants to do, whatever way he wants to do it without a complaint or any level of skepticism or anything like that. What I mean by a mandate is that they're more interested in what he's doing than what you were saying you wanted to do. Don't come and act like the American public wants to flow with you. They don't. They don't. Because they're sick and tired of what you've been doing. They're sick and tired of how you've been doing it. They're sick and tired of how you hoodwinked. We got to a point where people were worried about their jobs if they didn't pronounce the right pronoun. You have any idea how ridiculous that is? Of course you do. It's a rhetorical question. You would know that better than me because you cover this stuff every day. I'm sitting there and I feel like I've been pulled into this because of how utterly ridiculous they are. What happened? You know, and this is the same party that raved about Bill Clinton. Well, what happened with Bill Clinton? takes office in 1992, 1994, Newt Gingrich in the House. They do their thing. They collaborate and they work together. Yes, he departed with a surplus, but that was from assistance from folks on the right. Newsflash, that means going across the aisle and working together. That means finding compromise, not just from a policy perspective, but from the psyche of America. I'm talking about, like, if I look at you, I got into this argument with Sean Hannity the other day. I said, this is the problem that I have with some of y'all. I said, you might have inside information, and I had this issue with Bill O'Reilly too. You might have inside information. You may know something, and because you know, it's okay. Well, guess what? I'll use this analogy, Megyn. Let's say, for example, Trump gets into something and he gets in a bit too deep. Let's say, for example, he wasn't, seemingly against Ukraine at times or whatever the case may be. And let's say we're on the verge of being at war with Russia, China, whomever. Let's say something happens and we think we're on the brink of World War III. But Megyn Kelly, because of her knowledge and her connections, knows better. And Bill O'Reilly knows better. And Hannity and everybody else knows better. And we're going through this for 3 months. You may know. But what about the hundreds of millions of American citizens that have no clue and are sitting in fear that World War III or a nuclear holocaust is going to take place? How stressed do you think their lives are? I don't think we think enough about that, which is why I think it's incredibly important for a centrist, a moderate on either side of the aisle to be in office, because you're showing decorum, you're showing an ability to work with one another, and you're assuaging the concerns of the American public so the rest of us don't lose our minds.
Point. But I mean, yeah, it sucks that hasn't been able to happen in years, if ever, because people don't want there to be unity. They don't want us to come together, reach across the aisle and work together. These people in power just want to be in power, and they want their side to be in power, and they do not prioritize Americans. But I agree with him to a degree. Obviously, there's certain things on the left that I will just never agree with, and I'm sure that's how they feel towards me. But yeah, I really appreciate that he's being honest, objective about how the Democratic Party has been behaving, how they're acting, and how we need to unify and work together if we actually want to see some change happen here. And inside information like that, that's a really good point. You may have information that the rest of the public doesn't know, which makes you at peace of mind, but they're not. So we need to be more transparent with the American people as well. So shout out to Stephen A. Smith, and I love that clip from The View because he made Joy look stupid, and that's always fun. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to comment down your thoughts below. Can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Peace.